it's very telling that when all the other identifiable groups in America get to talk about things during the midterms, about like the things they want for themselves and the things they want for the communities, and hearing candidates that reflect their politic and reflect what they're passionate about, we just get fed the same thing. You fucking darkies go vote. You fucking darkies go vote. You Negroes go to the polls. And that's bullshit. It is bullshit when black people do it, and it's especially bullshit when white people do it.
Our next topic is, as we ramp up to the midterm elections, there are efforts to get out the vote. When it comes to the black community, there is always an urban version of ads to reach its youth. The group called When We All Vote, which was created by Michelle Obama, has released an ad featuring a sexualized rap song. Is this an appropriate way of reaching the black community? Why is it that when speaking to us, it's okay to use themes that would never be used for other groups? Or is it fine as long as the ad is effective? So I want to give a shout out to my man Bam here. Bam is the one who brought this to my attention, and very useful. It helps a lot when you do. Um, but yeah, so it's a rap song, and it's with two rappers. I don't even know who they are.
Can you drop a link in the chat so
It's
I can see exactly how terrifying this is going to be?
I
it's
sent it to you.
Trina.
I sent it to
Trina,
you. Like that was
and-
part of
in the group
the
chat.
invite.
In the group chat. It's on
So
Twitter. It's on
that's
Twitter.
what I get for not reading.
But yeah, so in any case, and but I will put it in the I'll put it in the regular chat. Hey, Nutella, thank you for the 100 bits. In any case, so that's the Twitter link, and you can check it out yourself. But in any case, yeah, is this appropriate? And it feels like this is something that they wouldn't do it for other groups. So yeah, we'll start with Bam.
Yeah, the song is "No Voting" by Trina featuring Santana. Santana is a gay man who was a close friend of Carisha, who is a member of City Girls. Just dragging down the line. With this rap group. Yeah, I think that I'm for engaging the youth, especially black youth, into voting. I'm super in favor of figuring out how to reach these people. What do they respond to, and doing that. I don't know. Like I said, well, me and Prom he had an initial conversation about this, and my position was and still is, um, I I would just need to see the Carfax. I would need to see the statistics. If this is actually the way that the thing that black youth seem to respond to, then then it is what it is. Like I said, I can have my own feelings about it, be a boomer about it, but like this is what works. But I have a strong feeling. I'm still in my 20s. I feel like I'm still part of the target audience for this to a degree, and I don't feel like this is how what black people respond to, young black people respond to as far as getting them to the polls. It feels like a bigotry of low expectations, and says that like, oh, we can't actually talk about the issues with them. We need to, rap at them. Which again, I'm sure it was black people behind it from like the entire thing, because only black people know about Trina, the bad, aka the baddest bit. But yeah, it just still feels really cringy. I don't know. We'll see from there.
Revolutionary.
All right. So I just watched it, and now I wish I had been shot into the sun instead. Jesus Christ. If that's the best we can do for voter engagement in the black community, I give up. Because that's absolutely ridiculous. It's patronizing is what it is.
Josh.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, personally, I think the ad was fine. Although maybe over sexual, but I mean, I think it will resonate with its target audience. And I think if you're a person who thinks this ad is like too over sexual or maybe not woke enough, then this ad probably wasn't made for you. I feel like ads have become so tailored and customized nowadays that that if this ad wasn't meant for you, you probably wouldn't have never seen it, if not for the tweet. But I'll just end my thoughts on this. I thought the song was very catchy, but I gotta say, legs in the air, don't care. Anybody can get it. Universal healthcare. That's the worst bar I've ever heard. Like, that's so bad. There's no creativity to that, Trina. Like,
I like that one.
that's so bad. That's the worst bar I think I've ever heard.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Kai?
You're welcome.
So yeah, they got a habit of doing things like this because when they were trying to get all the black people to get out and get vaccinated, they did a vax that thing up with the full juvenile treatment. So every time we're gonna get patronized to and condescended to think that we are ignorant enough to use that to get us to the polls or to get us vaccinated. I think we're better than that. It may have a target demographic, but that target demographic probably doesn't give a crap. They're not going to vote and they're not going to get vaccinated either way. So it's a waste of time and it's making us all look like idiots. And I'm done.
Green?
I think my biggest issue was that it was a BLK app sponsored thing. They try to promote their dating app through this. I'm like, nigga, you know what I'm saying? Like, why is you in a commercial? That's crazy to me. But I think, like, I agree with Nutella. In fact, that if it's not for you, it's not for you. I'm sure there's people that like it and it's for them. But if it's not for you, I mean, if it's not going to change your mind either way, then we shouldn't really care about it. I get the patronizing aspect, but it's like, if it's done by black people, it's not like, Jesus Christ, my nigga, that music video was crazy. But it's, it's black
want to vote less.
You know what I'm saying? It's black people doing it. So it's like, I feel like it should be cool because, they get in a bag at least doing that. So, black empowerment, finances. And it's like, just ignore it if you don't like it. It's fine. I mean, I watched it. I didn't like it. I'm ignoring it. I think the most important aspect or the most important piece to get people to vote is to actually give them something to care about. And a commercial ain't going to do that. You got to make them aware about the actual ballot issues that are up to vote. Like, PS5 is going to increase by $300 if you don't vote. Oh, shit. They're going to go crazy at the ballot.
Okay.
We can finally get PS5s.
Let's go to Aisle.
Because I think I've spoken on this very often. It's like, I'm a certified like poll worker in the city of New York. So I really am invested in getting people out to vote and make sure that everyone has their rights, their day, to like have their right to have their voices heard at the ballot box. I think that's very important. And so I support like any way to get more people out to have their voices heard. I think that this is like I don't think that this is something that speaks to me, but if it spoke to somebody and it actually does make them interested in voting and actually having their voice heard, then I think that's a wonderful thing and it's a beautiful thing. I think that it's a little patronizing that people have to decide to like rap to us because we're black, and apparently rap is the only language black people understand in the urban settings nowadays. I think that's a bit patronizing and a little bit suspect on their views on how we are. But I think that if it actually spoke to people and actually helped people get to the polls, I think that's a good thing. Because I mean, listen, when WAP came out and it was like the hottest track of the summer, people were like all talking about how WAP was gonna be like the destruction of the whole youth and whatnot, and it was horrible and whatnot. But people really liked that song, and it was like it was a really good song. I haven't actually heard the rap for getting people to the polls this time. I'll have to listen to it in a little bit, but if it's good, then and it stands on its own, then it's a good song that stands on its own. And if it helps people get to the polls, then that's a wonderful thing.
We have our friend Joe Lewis just popped in just in time. Thanks for being here, Joe Lewis. Also, I think I had you on Monday, so a double header.
Yeah.
With my man Joe. It's rare, but it's definitely a treat. So I'm happy to have you here. We're just on the second topic, so you can give your intro now and introduce yourself if you'd like.
Yeah, no. I'm Joe. I talk on the internet. I wanted to come on particularly for this topic because I think it's a goodie. It's a good one. I think I guess I won't be nice here. It's like I think that the motivations as to why this type of content matters, and it's very telling that when all the other identifiable groups in America get to talk about things during the midterms, about like the things they want for themselves and the things they want for the communities, and hearing candidates that reflect their politic and reflect what they're passionate about, we just get fed the same thing. You fucking darkies go vote. You fucking darkies go vote. You Negroes go to the polls. And that's bullshit. It is bullshit when black people do it, and it's especially bullshit when white people do it. And it's like, wouldn't it be great if we had advertisement that's trying to target black men that care about the issues that exist within black men? Wouldn't that be something? But instead, we get like stripper ads that relate to going to the polls. We get the idea that your ability to even have sexual activity is gate kept by your ability to vote. It's like it's ridiculous to me. And what's ridiculous about it to me is that people eat this shit up. Like right now, that video has like 500,000 views. But then you go to Raphael Warnock's advertisements and his political ads, which is just 30 seconds out of your day, it's less than 1,000 views on his channel. And it's like, okay, that's really interesting. It's like, so we get really excited about like about having like Trina and Saucy, and like that's all well and good, but it's nothing. It is absolutely nothing. And if you have to motivate a base of people based on a non-political action, which is sex in this case, it's garbage. It's garbage when a social media app does it, in this case a BLK, and it's especially garbage if politicians do it, especially if they have influence from candidates. Like this isn't it's not like this isn't a coincidence. This is an app that has information about black people. And then like what's it saying to us? It is saying to us that probably there's a lot of people within the BLK app that are politically apathetic. There's probably a lot of men who are on that app that are politically apathetic. So much so that they wanted to create an entire entire like pseudo ad campaign and viral campaign just to tell, hey, you fucking black men vote, because or if you don't vote, we're going to gatekeep our vaginas from you. Like that's ridiculous to me. And maybe we'll argue about it, but I think this is such a political waste of time, where we're in a situation where a Hall of Fame running back who probably beats women and probably pays money for their abortions is going to beat a reverend with a PhD who clearly has a political background and clearly has a better foot at what black politics are, but Democrats don't give a shit about black politics, so we'll never really know what Reverend Warnock stands for. And it's like, great, that's so I'm so excited to see all the white liberals crying and blaming black people again when Herschel Walker beats Raphael Warnock. Like it's just, I'm really disappointed at this ad. I'm really disappointed at that ad.
Well, that's not really a foregone conclusion. I think they're like dead even in polls, right?
Dead even in Georgia is embarrassing for Democrats.
I
Well,
think it's
only
more embarrassing
now.
for Republicans right now.
It's embarrassing
Right.
for Republicans. They have a Republican governor.
They don't need 50% of the Republicans don't need 50% of their electorate.
Nah, that's my Morehouse brother, man. Raphael Warnock, do your thing, man. I met him, and he was doing some great things. But I do feel you on that, Joe. You could do better on the advertising, as well as I just think the message needs to be better. But you got to understand, in Georgia, I understand it's embarrassing from my perspective, but Georgia is so conservative, bro. Like
Yeah, it's very red until recently.
Yeah, my girlfriend was telling me like she went in high school, like this private school, and they was playing beer pong, and the teams were Jews versus Nazis, and it was all like white people. Like, hey guys, let's play Jews versus Nazis beer pong. Like that's a thing in Georgia.
I'm from the state. Again, it's like it's bad, but I don't think I think people do know, but it's insane how bad of a candidate that Herschel Walker has been.
They
Like,
really just put him out there as a like, oh, here we gonna put this one nigga out here to beat this other nigga, and it's like, yo, you put somebody out there whose brain is made of tapioca, which is the main reason why he's been ducking every debate. The man
I
can barely
love
string
that.
together a cogent sentence.
Let's
His
also
son put together a really
let's-
good sentence. A
let's
lot of
be
sentences.
for real. Let's be for real. We
They
know
just
that
don't make no sense.
we know polls can be like wishy-washy too. Like we don't
Yeah,
really
but
know.
this
this isn't about that part. I just wanted to say, like, my my issue is if this, I would find it cringy, but I would say, oh, okay, it's just what they do. If I seen Antonio Banderas out there like making a video towards the Hispanic community, or if they got one of these K-pop groups like coming out with like anime costumes going voto Asian, but they don't do that.
Exactly.
Wait, you're telling me there's no country music?
I mean,
exactly. There's no juxtaposition. There's no commercials.
They use other music stars and
I work in political ads, and I can.
It's very patriotic. I think there are for social issues. I don't think for voting issues they do country music for.
Josh,
what was yeah.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I work in political ads, and I can tell you, first and foremost, that they do make, Spanish-specific ads that only tailor to people who speak Spanish or people who are of the Latin, culture. So there are other ads that speak to other cultures that, just to speak to other cultures. It's just you don't see them because
are they?
Well, no. I'm saying specifically, is there a Spanish ad where they're doing reggaeton? They're backing that thing up while they're doing the reggaeton and the whole deal, and that is what they're doing.
Wait, water. Are you saying that you have an issue with how it's done, not necessarily the format is being done in? For example,
I want black people.
It's the same thing. You just said the same exact thing.
No, I didn't. I mean,
how it's done, and
the format is different because the format is hip hop rap music. How it's done, as in the being overly sexual, right? That's how it's done. But what if it was like Common and some woke ass nigga rapping about, in a very what if it was J. Cole and Common on some let's go vote shit? Would you have a problem with that?
I have a problem with rap music. I'm talking about.
That's why I just asked. That's the question I'm asking.
So I'm saying it's that they're using the lowest common denominator. So can we do the same for everyone? So have it reggaeton, have it, some outlaw country, have it be BTS, have it be whatever it is that speaks to those communities. Supposedly.
So you don't have a problem with Santana, like no voting, no vucking. You don't care about the lyrics or anything like that. You care about that it's not also being done in every other community.
Exactly. If you're going to do it for everyone.
I got you.
I have a problem with it.
I have a problem with
in
it.
all,
It's
in all areas.
liable to do it for everyone. I mean,
I was gonna say,
black people are so important to the American electorate. I feel like it wouldn't be politically viable to do it for every single different type of race in America.
Is it politically viable to do it for us?
I was about to say, Joseph say, if it's important, if black people are important, this is not how we should be treated. If we're just important,
think about it this way:
the ad wasn't meant for you.
Right, but it doesn't fucking matter if the ad's meant for us. It's to black people. It is an ad specifically through black people from the largest social media apps that caters to black social life and relationships. And then, in the face of this, because they have the data, they're saying, "Hey, within this is what we see," and then they're just throwing that out there, and it's rough, man. It's rough.
It's rough.
I mean, we're kind of ignoring the elephant in the room
on Facebook.
The elephant in the room that black people are poor, and we don't have generational wealth.
That we're. That's part of it. But
and our generational wealth was extracted by white people.
We are politically homeless.
We don't have a real party to vote for. We just have parties to vote against.
Oh, you want
It's like being caught between two mobs begging for protection.
Listen, I'm just starting to get really tired. Imagine we had some sock dem or a progressive, some white progressive, white sock dem white liberal that just says, "Hey, black people, I hear your strife. I hear your problems. I hear what you're saying. I'm going to dedicate my career to make sure that you are seen within my politic." And that would be very political disadvantageous, but at the very least, it would show that people give a shit. Where it's like, nobody wants to bite the bullet in admitting that black people are poor and that poverty comes from the extraction of our wealth from white people. And then when we finally say, "Hey, white people, can you please like share these things with others?" They buckle down and they just tell us, "Shut the fuck up and vote." And it's like, what are we voting for at this point? And
I'm not-
and then like on top of that, then we wonder why black men are leaving to be Republicans. And I'm telling you, man, it's embarrassing to watch black conservatives just flanking liberals and sockdems and leftists left and right on black male issues and black issues broadly. It's embarrassing. Like it's embarrassing to hear hear black reactionaries have better takes on families than white leftists. It's embarrassing. Like it's and we need these people to drive our movements forward. But then when it's like, hey, we should probably like center our center our politics so that black people are seen, it's like it's a bridge too far because they set the terms on everything. They set the terms on the conversation on reparations. They set the term on conversations on families. They set the term on conversations on abortion. And then we just got to sit there. And then they say, "Why are you guys not voting?
I think,
Like, why are you fucking darkies not voting?" Like I thought
you're-
this is. It's like it's not.
I mean, I think you're touching on a good point there, Joe, within the Democratic Party. I feel like if we sort of looked at this ad, sort of, totally forgot what my train of thought.
I'll go
Yeah,
while
go,
you
you,
think.
you go. Yeah.
Joe, what do you think about the like? What do you think is like? What is the real? How could we really like get like black people to get voted? Like, what's the real solution to get us to vote?
Show black people that they're being seen within the institutions and that their problems are actually real.
How do you do that?
Like
Yeah, but
you
That's
give me
very
an
tell the
example.
truth. You
I
tell
agree.
the truth,
That's
and
so
you
vague.
don't.
You're being very vague.
No,
It's
give me
not
just-
vague. It's
No,
not.
no, you're
vague.
right.
Like,
Telling the
I
truth
agree.
is
here's
vague.
here's the truth. Here's the truth.
Give me an example.
Black
the
people
truth?
are poor. Our schools are shit. Our educational attainment for black women is very good, but overall fairly inconsistent. Our ability to avoid the criminal justice system is incredibly difficult. Our overall health as a group of people is awful, and we don't have the level of wealth to interact with the healthcare systems. The the very books that were used to teach our children are washed in such a way so that we're not only confused about our identity, but confused about our own racialized history in the very country that some of our people were slaves in. Like it's so much shit. And then
He's
all
asking you
I'm
for a
asking
solution,
for,
though.
right? But it's not my job to come up with a solution for people who are above me. It's that they see the things, they make the reports, they make the Kerner reports, they make the Goodman reports, they do these analyses, and then when it's finally time to say, "Hey, we did this work, we did this dedication to try to figure out this problem, maybe we should center a politic around that so that these people are not only seen, but we can actually say like, hey, these are the steps that we're doing," and they just don't do that.
Okay, I got a follow up question, Joe. Do you vote consistently?
Yes, of course.
Did you always vote as soon as you could?
Yes.
Why?
Voter registration was automatic in my state, and it was very clear because I was in a culture and a family that said like, "Hey, this is something that you do."
Okay, cool. Is
Yeah,
there a way
but
we can
again,
like?
that doesn't exist for all black people,
Right, exactly.
because we're
yeah.
fucking poor. Like and poverty manifests itself outside of monetary stuff. Like we're poor educationally, we're poor social, we're poor in almost all areas of activity. I
just
can't
think
think.
I just think naming problems without solutions is just just useless at this point.
I don't know about solutions, but I think that something can be done. Like you can do things with a little more respect or responsibility. Like you can still like target audiences. A good example was in Louisiana Senator Gary Chambers. He had a really dope. Well, I think his campaign in general was pretty dope, but he had like a dope commercial where they talked about a lot of issues they dealt with. Like they gave statistics, and then at the end they were talking about like things related to like drug charges, and at the end he had a blunt, and he was saying that like that's right, like this doesn't make me unqualified to do my job.
girlfriend
Like,
way
it's
back
supposed to
then.
be blunt in this video, and that was like, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I understand why a young person could relate to that and feel like, oh wow, you're like, wow, Gary Chambers, like he's running for Senate and he's smoking weed, but it wasn't in like some cringe, like over the top, oh shuck and jive type of way. Like it was just
Well,
like
just to
responsible.
assume that smoking weed is a predominantly black thing only.
Sure.
So just because he's
No,
smoking weed should not appeal to the
remember
black
that-
community.
No, no,
Yeah,
but the
I think I agree with Kai there.
but the way, like, let's not be naive here. We can recognize that people have different types of expressions of who they are and things that they do recreationally, and it's not the fact that he's smoking weed that's black about it. It's like there's an authenticity to that attracts individuals, and that's what needs to be captured. The fact that these people have nuances and intricacies of their personality. I promise you, if we ask this panel what Raphael Warnock stands for, I don't even think BAM could be able to quantifiably answer that question, because the Democrat Party made a very good job at making sure that this darky shuts up. And we don't know what he does outside of being the pepper to fucking John Ossoff. Like, that's what he is. He's just his pepper to his salt. And
Well,
it's
Wait, they
embarrassing.
made him.
I don't know
the D-
Raphael Warnock's position because I live in New York.
The DNC. Wait, hold
Why
on.
would his position matter to me?
Well,
The
I mean, even
DN
in the state, he just has to keep saying like, I'm not a socialist, and I was a understudy of MLK. Like I preached at the church MLK did like a few years later. Like that's the entirety. Like, but I'm not a socialist. Don't let me know I'm not a socialist.
Yeah,
That's
and
basically
like
what
it's
he
the
has to get up and
same.
say.
It's
over
the
and over.
same nonsense where every single black politician has to basically appeal to, like, hey, I'm not Al Sharpton. I'm
Yeah.
not Al Sharpton. I'm not these other black people that are a little too radical and scared. No, I'm actually the nice, appeasable one that's gonna like make sure I vote for everything. I'm never gonna make my identity like an issue just because Obama already confused us about that. So we're not even gonna touch that. Like, I'm gonna be just like clean shaven, like a clean shaven, good. See, look at me smile. Look at my
Yeah.
smile. Like,
I mean,
it's bullshit.
is that hold
in
on, Joe? Is that the system or is that Raphael Warnock's fault?
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, like a person who's best equipped to be, the politician would be the politician. But I mean,
No.
that's not.
Like, if you don't like,
Not how
it's
it's
whoever has
how it is.
whoever has money. Whoever has money.
It's all about
And if
money.
you don't have money,
In
if you
a
don't have
perfect
money,
world, in a perfect world.
yeah. And if you don't have money, you need to have a movement. That's the
Sure.
only reason why AOC won. Like, let's be real about it. Let's be fucking real about it.
No,
Like,
I mean, AOC is popular in the Bronx.
the squad won. No,
We're
you're
allowed
not.
to address people like
I live in
people aren't
Harlem.
allowed to.
No, no, you're not hearing what I'm saying. You're not hearing what I'm saying. AOC is broke, but she's broke just enough where she's able to create a movement in what she's doing, so that like that's how she won. She didn't win because she had financial backings of like insane amounts. She won because there was a movement behind her, and the squad is a movement that's going to guarantee votes because they know they're not going to have the political like economic capital for like the mainstream DNC to throw money behind them. Like, that's what's keeping them in power right now. It's just the
Black people
popularity of the movement.
Black people just aren't allowed to like in politics. We're not allowed to like you can be black and be involved in politics, but you're not allowed to speak directly to black issues because then you're like othering. Like, what about the rest of us? Oh, they want. I mean, like, Biden didn't even say it, and he's already being sued by like the state of Wisconsin for like saying that the student loan forgiveness is too black. Like,
People are always hedging against
How you get
messing with the reaction of white
how you get
society.
sued by the state of Wisconsin about saying something that's too black?
Well,
Was it saying it specifically about that state?
No, lawyers from Wisconsin, like a bunch of like they're suing on the student loan forgiveness because they're saying that because it disproportionately benefits Pell Grant recipients who are black. So,
and even in the face, and that's the problem. Like, even in the face of issues,
that doesn't even make sense.
Well, it doesn't make sense because we can't solve problems in communities when the people who are in positions of power are too chicken shit to identify what the problem is. It doesn't matter about the solution because they're too dog shit about even like saying what the problem is. Like, they're bad at it. And then like when you get these like progressives and these leftists and these sock dems, when they finally come into position of power, they're just gonna lose to some black woman with some silly fucking hat and silly politics, because once it finally comes to talking about race, that black woman, despite the fact that their politics are probably shit, and despite the fact that they're just gonna be another yes massa, like they just get blasted because they can never just identify like what these communities are saying and then what they can offer. It's one, you have to like demonstrate that like the other person that's currently in power should not be there. And then 2, like why you should be the replacement. And that never happens because 4 problems in America when it comes to black people, when it finally comes to like to have the political conversation is dodged and the conversation is just about voting.
Yes, they're
that's
cowards,
I
but
think-
what's our solution?
I think I disagree with Joe's characteristic about how that those problems that you listed before are exclusive to the black community, because I don't think they are.
Which one?
I mean, pretty much all of them. I mean, you said
That black
education.
people are generationally in
poor.
poverty, and they're generationally in
Yeah, there are
poverty
white
because of
people
the.
who are poor.
Hold on. That's you're getting to some consciousness obfuscating your mind right now. I'm saying that black people in America, specifically American descendants of slavery, are generationally poor because of the fact that white Americans extracted their wealth. You're saying you disagree with that?
I disagree with that. Yes.
Why?
Come on, bro. Hold on. We gotta stop this nigga.
Why? Why you disagree?
I think
I'm curious.
most problems are a capitalistic problem and not based on race.
So that's not a capitalistic
on,
problem.
bro.
The fact that
Those definitely
generationally
intertwine,
American
bro.
Generational wealth.
I said
generational.
generationally American descendants of slaves were their wealth was extracted and redistributed to predominantly white Americans.
Specifically
Are we just gonna
on the
like,
basis of race?
and you're disagreeing with that?
Coincidentally.
You're saying it's not a race thing, but it's a capitalistic thing.
mo-
But it's both.
Modern.
can't it
No,
be-
it's not a race thing. I don't think
Bro,
it's a
The
race.
No,
Green
we
New
can't.
Deal targeted white people. What are you saying right now? And and black people were overtly excluded from the benefits of the New Deal.
I don't think black people are poor. because they're
Generationally in
black.
poverty? You don't
Yeah,
think
no,
American
that's
descendants
not-
of
That's
slaves?
not what I'm saying. That's not
I
what I'm
don't
saying.
believe
I'm not saying black people are generationally poor. I understand there's a huge wealth gap between the black community and the white community. I'm just saying.
Why does that gap exist?
It is not because they're black nowadays. It's because the
No,
lack
no,
of opportunity, lack of economic opportunity, lack of educational opportunity.
Why do you? So my question is, why do you
that's
say?
why.
Why do you say?
You can look at
so
slavery.
my
as
question is.
you can look at slavery as a historical standpoint. Of course, it was a big part
Okay.
of black history in America. Of course.
Okay.
But
Keep going.
nowadays,
What after that?
nowadays, you're not being discriminated against because you're black. You're being
When
discriminated
was the
against
New
because you're
Deal?
poor. You
When
think it was cool.
was the New Deal? When were the policies that we now know as a New Deal? What year was that?
1920s.
1930s.
1930s.
1930s and
Yeah,
40s. So that is something that you all have grandparents that existed under, right? We can understand that, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And with the New Deal and the policies that were designed that were overtly targeted white people, not through depending on which politician you ask you, it was razor thin or just by consequence, that created the extraction of wealth from black people to white people. And black people were not even able to participate in those programs due to the exclusion. That's not slavery. That's in the past 80 years, 90 years, depending.
You getting the redlining.
No, don't get me wrong. I totally understand the legal consequences of the legality of race in America. I understand that laws have hampered black people in America. I'm just saying nowadays you're not being discriminated against because you're black.
You are affected by the New Deal today. That's not something that's stopped because like that's what generational wealth and generational poverty creates. Like, I guarantee you, if you broke your leg right now, that would put you back at least 10 years financially. And I have data to back that up. And I could just stereotype that. That's how bad the problem is.
And
like, black people in America
are we
are
just
not
talking about history, or are we going to actually talk about solutions?
That's a problem.
Because
black people
we're just
can't do
going to talk
anything.
about the
Break your
problems
leg,
without talking about solutions. We aren't getting anywhere with this conversation.
Yeah.
Well, there has to be an agreement on the problem.
If you
Black
break
people are
your
just
leg,
invalids is the
wait.
problem.
If you break your leg and go broke, it's not because you're black. It's because of capitalism, right?
No,
No.
I don't understand. I don't understand why this is getting obfuscated.
This
What I'm
nigga's
saying
insane, bro.
here is that black Americans, particularly American descendants of slavery, do not have the same levels of generational wealth as white Americans in
I
particular,
understand that.
but
it's not a
other Americans
coincidence.
generally.
And
It's
because
not a
of that,
coincidence.
I understand.
Nutella,
I
and-
understand that.
and Nutella,
That's a
because of that,
fact.
and because of that generational gap, and because of that, because they're poor, because of that's leading to their outcomes today. So it's like you're saying it's poverty, it's capitalism, but that poverty was caused by the racist capitalist policies.
You can look
right?
at history. You can look at history and be like, yeah, sure.
So the problems today is because
Can I finish, please? Thank you.
Yeah.
You can look at history and be like, hey, black people were discriminated against. It slowed down generational wealth built within the black community. That's a perfectly valid analysis. I'm just saying today, in the year of 2022, you are not being discriminated against.
That's not true.
Because you're specifically black. You're being discriminated against because you're either poor, you don't have any education, you have lack of educational opportunity, you have lack of work opportunities.
There's no those things are because we're black.
That's a problem with capitalism.
It's
not
because,
a problem with America.
but the thing is, we can't listen.
Listen,
Like I'm just like, okay, I think I see something here, right? We have a country that created race explicitly. We put it in our laws. We can't just say in 2022 now, because it makes liberals uncomfortable and it makes mainstream Democrats uncomfortable, that we now can't talk about that and we only have to talk about the class inequality. That is bullshit. Because the only way that we're going to have to be able to even approach the conversation of attacking generational poverty is wealth redistribution, and that's going to have to come through reparations.
I agree with you.
That has to come through a concentrated. Well, yeah, I know, because you probably disagree with reparations because you probably never thought about it outside 30 seconds. Like it, because
I thought about reparations a lot.
So what does reparations look like?
I just want to.
What does reparations look like to you? It's not.
Wait a second. I want to address this like a really specific thing. Like this is like a hypothetical. So let's say I take this comb right here, and I have a bunch of copies of this comb, and I give the combs to everyone in the chat, everyone in this conversation except for you. Okay. And then I say that only people with these combs are allowed to go to school. So let's say all of us can go to school. Then you pass it down to your children. We pass it down to our children, and your kids can't have any because you didn't have one to pass down. So all of our children need to go to school. And then the third generation, the same thing happens. Now, by the third generation, could I say that you're arguing that your children weren't allowed to go to school not because of discrimination, but it's just because they didn't have a comb. But the reason you don't have a comb is because of the discrimination. It was generationally passed down. So
I agree with you. No,
but you don't. That's the point. Like,
you can look at history.
Wait a minute. Wait, just let me finish, because then this is what I'm hearing. Let's apply that to racism. You're saying that people aren't discriminated today because of racism, but it's just because of capital and education, all these other issues.
Wealth inequality.
But the wealth inequality exists specifically because of the racism. You can't just act like it didn't happen
in the past, but now
it happens now. No,
you got to look at it a little bit different. Bam, you got to look at it a little bit different. So, have you ever heard of the Southern Strategy?
Yeah. You talking to me?
Oh, well, I'm talking to anybody that's trying to understand this. So you look at the Southern Strategy, they made the language more vague to affect Black people, but not specifically say it affects Black people.
Sure.
In that outcome, poor white people ended up also being affected.
Sure.
So should they be ignored?
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like there are poor white people that go through the same.
Right.
There's some vague posting, but there were things that were hard on the books. There were like no blackies accepted to get.
Okay, so like
doesn't target them the same way it does us. There's one example of racism for you that's current.
Or we can just
redlining.
Redlining is not current.
Or we can just look.
It is.
Hold on.
This
nigga cannot be just allowed to just say nonsense, bro. Redlining is current because you see current segregation of neighborhoods. You see it right now. Like if you went to Jackson, Mississippi, where I visited, niggas is literally split black neighborhood, white neighborhood. Why is that? It's because you think they wanted to? No, it's because historically these were the neighborhoods that they could only afford or they were forced or pushed into the ghettos and stuff.
That's a problem with capitalism. That's a problem with wealth inequality. That's not a problem because they're black. They're not pushed to the side. They're not pushed to the south side because they're black. They're pushed to the south side because they can't afford it.
This nigga is setting.
You know what redlining is?
So
literally because they're black.
I do know what redlining is.
Right.
So because they're black.
Okay, Joe. Joe,
I can-
go, Joe.
Social Security, right?
Go, go.
Specifically, under the New Deal with Social Security, it explicitly excluded farm workers and maids. In the 40s and 50s, farm workers made anywhere upwards of 75% of, or 80%, depending on which stat you're looking at, of the labor force of Black people in the South. And then the entire labor force overall, that's 60%. So within this thing that is supposed to give you money, Black people were disproportionately excluded with that. And then
Sure.
on top of that, even when you had Black Americans who did, they were inadequate due to the decentralization of the administration of benefits to the states. And Southern Democrats knew this. Like, they knew this. And then on top
Sure.
of that, when we look at the fair labor law, which is another aspect of the New Deal, you needed to have a stable and secure job, and you had to appeal that with consent to your employer. You know who didn't get that? Farm workers and maids. So this is a systematic effort of
Yeah.
making sure that
Joe.
we're not going to say Negro, we're not going to say Black, but we're going to make sure through the policy that we are targeting these people, and we're going to make that very clear in the outcome. And now I'm saying that these consequences we are still dealing with today, and on top of all
I
the
understand
other
that.
thing, on top of all the other things that are happening, you know,
I understand that. Yeah, you can definitely look
Yeah.
at the discrimination.
and that
against Black
requires a
people.
racialized solution. It doesn't
Sure.
require a class solution.
Sure. I disagree with you there. I think it's a.
Well, why do you?
class issue.
Well, why do you disagree? How do you solve this with only class? How do you solve the wealth distribution that happened through Social Security and the Fair
I'm not
Labor
trying to
Law?
solve it. Well, I am trying to, but I'm not trying to solve it through race, though. How do you
But
solve
how
it
do you?
through
But,
race?
but how do you do that? How do you do that? This is a
I mean,
racialized outcome.
Yeah, well,
This is a
wealth,
racialized
wealth
outcome, and you're saying
redistribution.
we can
Wealth
solve this without a
redistribution.
racialized solution.
Yes, wealth redistribution.
Where's the majority of that money gonna go?
Probably towards white people because white
To
people make-
niggas. Like, what are you saying?
Wait,
Like,
what?
Wealth
to
redistribution.
There's
niggas.
more of them than
Yes.
us. They're going to
I
get
mean,
the
he's
net.
saying from where the money is
Well-
coming from, where it's going to, right? So,
Yeah.
are you saying it's
Going
coming
from white people.
So, under Josh, are you saying it's coming from white people?
Reparations? Like
No.
No, I'm
well,
saying
well,
I'm saying the wealth redistribution.
sure.
Who is that going to target?
The poor people. I don't know.
Poor people?
Sure.
Why don't you want to say Black people?
Because it won't only
Because-
target Black people.
Because not all poor people are black.
So you're saying that if I was up there on the stage and I laid out all these facts that I just did, I talked about Social Security, I talked about the Fair Labor Law, maybe I'll even talk about the GI Bill, which is centered to the states. So the southern states just didn't give a shit about that, and I made all these appeals about the GI Bill acceptance rates of first white and Black people, and then like the FHA pamphlets that had exclusionary areas, and those exclusionary areas were predominantly Black communities, and all this appealing. Then I would POC my way and include white people in that. Is that what you're telling me right now? Like,
In wealth redistribution, I think we should include all races.
Brother, you have to understand something. Like there is
Because not just black people have been discriminated here.
right, but
in
why
But-
are we
but-
why are
but
we
Black
including
people-
why must we include white people in our messaging?
Why are we
Why must we do
excluding
that?
white people in our messaging?
Let me
No, I'm
tell
asking
you,
why
bro.
must we?
let Joe give this a try.
I'm making an appeal of reparations to American
sorry.
descendants of slaves. And the thing that I'm saying is that American descendants of slaves have a very particular problem, a very particular stripe that is unique from other racialized groups in America. Like, and with that, and with that framing I'm trying to say here, you're now saying that white Americans have to be included in the conversation about American descendants of slaves?
About wealth redistribution? I'm talking about wealth.
Yes,
redistribution.
yes, I'm talking
What
about
do you think
wealth
reparations
I'm not
redistribution.
talking about
are?
wait. I'm not talking
Reparation is
about
literally restitution.
Nah, I mean I disagree.
Well,
with that.
part of
I mean,
reparations can be wealth redistribution. Yes, it's
Sure.
one part of many.
Sure, I agree with that. But I mean, I disagree with that. The fact that wealth redistribution only has to affect black people.
It will
Like,
it will
you can
affect
do
other
types
groups
of
as
wealth
well.
redistribution.
But I'm
We're
saying that
talking
like
about,
But-
response for a specific harms that were where there were generationally caused to a very specific group of people. You're saying that we can't address the like I said, it's not a coincidence that black people are poor. Like black people are historically targeted. So you're
Sure.
saying we can't address them specifically and to repair those harms.
And
definitely
might
address
the-
I add, Nutella, white people have gained many wealth distributions already, and black people have had none.
it's
Name
not-
one
I'm not-
wealth redistribution for white people. There's
It's
still white
not-
people living in trailers.
Yes, and there's black people living on the streets.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Like,
That's
and there's
exactly my
black people,
point.
and there's
Everybody,
poor, and there's black people in the
can be
prisons.
poor.
There's
You can
black
be white
people
and
in
poor.
the
You can be black and poor. You can be
Yeah,
Asian
but-
and poor. You can be Spanish and poor. You can be
But
Yeah.
very
rich and
different
poor.
reasons.
but for
Those
for
other
very
people-
different
other
reasons.
people happen to be
Does the
poor.
reason matter?
It does.
Absolutely.
They're poor. At the end of the day, they're all broke.
No, if you
No,
was
the
broke
reason
because you went
why
out
you're
and you
broke.
spent your money willy-nilly, if you
What?
was like irresponsible and you coincidentally ended up broke, that's very different than somebody put a gun to your face and stole all your money and now you broke. We're not gonna look at these two people and say they have the same thing. Like, oh, but we both have $0.
Sure.
No,
I
these
totally
aren't the
agree with
same.
you guys. I
The
totally agree with you
response
guys.
and how you
can-
solve those problems doesn't deserve the same solution.
And the
Yeah.
point that I'm trying to make is that when
what's,
you're
wait,
if you're
wait.
trying-
so,
sure.
So wait, what's the? Okay, so differentiate this for me, if anybody can do it. How do you solve the problem between a poor black man and a poor white man? Same.
you don't
same income.
have to,
Easy. I got the
you
answer.
have to
Give
you
me the
have
answer.
to you have to recognize that
Recognize
these two groups of people have different circumstances as to why they are in poverty. We can't look
Okay,
at this
wait,
from
wait,
one
let me-
individual to another
Okay.
individual.
All
And
right, let me-
concentrations of blackness in the United States is concentrations of poverty, it's concentrations of lack
Sure.
of jobs, it's concentrations of lack of opportunity. That's not
Sure.
true for white people. White people have
Sure.
their rich areas, they have their poor areas. They
So do
have
black
their middle
people.
class area. And that's bullshit, and you know that.
What?
You
Black
know
people
that.
have
You
rich
know that's
areas?
bullshit.
Black
You
areas
know
are-
that's bullshit. You
Black
know
area-
that's
black
bullshit.
rich area. Have you been to Atlanta?
Concentrations of blackness is poverty. You know this. And if you don't know this, I
What?
like go to
Wait,
the
wait,
census. I don't
Wait,
know what
no,
to
no,
tell
no,
you.
no. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just basing on what you
Show
just
me,
said. You
show
just
me,
said-
show me.
you just
I'm
said there-
saying
Wait,
concentrations
finish?
of blackness in
Yeah, yeah,
America.
yeah.
I'm saying concentrations of blackness in America equals poverty.
Yeah.
Gosh,
You're
go
saying
ahead.
it's not.
Okay,
Why?
let me rewind. Let me rewind. So let's look at two different scenarios. Let's look at a black man in a trailer home in Missouri and a white man in a trailer home in Missouri. How do we?
Where in Missouri?
I don't know.
Like
Fucking
dead ass.
Kansas City.
Kansas City?
Sure. I
Mm.
don't
Sure.
fucking know anywhere in Missouri that has trailer parks. Doesn't matter.
True.
Hi, chat.
So
You
so
said,
what?
how do we
what-
solve these?
Yeah, how do the solutions differ?
I'll
because
tell
one
you.
was-
Because if
one
we
was
just-
affected by
if we
slavery
just
and
give
one
every-
was
the-
affected by
because-
regular laws.
Because
I'm
And
telling
we
you,
fixed
because
it.
if you just
Only-
give everybody money, they'll just take the black people's again. Like you haven't learned your lesson. That's like you
Because-
haven't solved.
have we
anything.
ever
You
been
haven't
given
put
money?
anything in place.
Listen,
It's more than
America.
just giving
Listen,
people money, though. But
it's-
I mean,
it's
I mean,
not
it's
about
not
giving-
just money, yeah. But I'm saying,
It's
but like,
not
if you don't put
What?
any like social protections in place for the group that was discriminated, that all they're gonna do is continue to discriminate because that never stopped.
listen,
That
There-
is true.
I
We need
disagree,
whatever-
I disagree with that.
listen. Reparations need to be given to, like, if you're wrong, you deserve to have your plight righted again.
Sure.
So how you
Disagree
solve
with that.
poverty for black people, a lot of that is going to have to do with reparations, right? And reparations
Why?
can only because
a
we
debt
literally had
is
trillions of
unpaid.
dollars that was not of unpaid labor that was stolen from us, and we were also promised 40 acres and a mule, which would have drastically changed our livelihood to this day if we had that. And on top of that, 3 years after emancipation, the Congress literally shut down the only black bank, which removed 80% of black wealth. Can you imagine? People stored their cash in this black bank, and Congress said, "Now fuck that. We're just demolishing that."
Let's let in our friend who we haven't seen for a long time, but was
Pyro.
inspired to appear here. Pyro Tyrant, hey buddy,
Alright.
what do you have to say?
Yo, I've been listening to some bullshit for like a hot minute. I got home from work. I hit on the stream. I saw like the ABE going on. My man Joe Lewis, my man Prime, Isles sitting there looking good. All these people I know, and then some new
Am I
people.
ugly?
But-
That's
yeah, you
crazy.
kind of are. I'm not gonna lie, but like I wasn't gonna say anything, Dream. But you know, you
That's
got Dream
fine.
sitting there
Yeah.
with the camera on for some.
Let's
Let me
set
stop.
up.
Dream's cool. But I've been just listening for some bullshit. Like I just don't know how to like categorize it. Like, yeah, there is definitely like a separate reason why black people in America are in poverty than white people, and it's like history. Like when we look at it, it's like, damn, we've never been anywhere fucking else. That
Sure.
is like that we've been in poverty. The times we've tried to build thriving communities in the 30s and shit after, slavery, you know what happened? We bombed them. Sometimes with airplanes.
Sure.
And
Black
we
Wall
don't
Street,
really
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't really talk about that shit, the redlining and shit. So like when we talk about why these differences are here and what we should do to solve them, Joe's right in that like there needs to be like a reparations type thing that involved like redistributing some of this wealth to black communities to make sure like things that are still ongoing problems like low income schooling areas and districts and stuff like that, low fucking kept infrastructure, shit like that, just basic shit that rest of these cities can get, but somehow for some reason the poor black ghettos don't, and we're just left to like sit on that. So there are definitely things that can go into that should be separate to it.
I
And
agree
when
with
it comes to like helping poor people overall, that's not me or anyone else here saying ha ha ha, let's let trailer park people overall suffer. No, we
Black people
should
with a
push, we should 100% push state governments and the federal government to help poverty overall. There should be no one really living and, forced to live in a trailer park and shit like that where, it can get, the weather can like really affect the way you live and shit like that. We should fix that and all, but like we need to recognize that when we talk about these problems, we're not just talking about the poor people in trailer parks. We're also talking about the systematic ghettos that have been there for like 80 years up
Sure.
in, northern states that have, preached the good word since the Civil War, but what have they really done? And
I,
those are the problems we're talking about because the
Think
capitalism shit does come into
sure.
effect, Matt's not gonna lie.
I mean,
and
I was
think
just making an analogy with the trailer parks. I mean, I didn't mean
Yeah.
anything.
think
It's a good
Yeah.
analogy because it is a problem and like there are those low income areas, but then we have to look at like there are other areas where it's like, oh, those didn't develop in like the 80s or something during a crisis or a crash. That's just always been like that.
I think
There are
I
streets
agree
where
with you
it's
guys.
like, yo,
I think
it's been like this for 80 years.
there's obviously historical standpoints as to why black people are in the position they are today in America. I totally agree with you guys there. It's just my my kind of view on the sort of looking at it as a terms of race now here in 2022. I just don't think it's as prevalent as the 60s, as the 30s, the New Deal. I just don't.
you don't even have to go that far. That's what I'm trying to tell you, bro. You don't even have to go that far. Like especially in San Francisco, we have this reparations council for the very reason that something happened in the 80s, 90s, where black people were literally displaced. This neighborhood that was 98% black was had their neighborhood demolished and said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do renovation. Y'all can live in the East Bay." And imagine if they owned their house in San Francisco, how much it would be worth now.
Sure.
They literally lost millions of dollars from being displaced by force by the government. So this
Can I
is
ask Nutella a quick question?
let me go for
Okay.
just one more piece. I just want to tell you that when you help black people, there's evidence to show that it helps all people, right? Because black people open up businesses, they hire non-black people. They when you helping the least common denominator of this nation or whatever in the world, you're gonna help alleviate that burden on everybody else because that's just how life works, right? When your worst people is up, right? Because what's that saying? Like you're only as weak as your weakest link, right?
Only strong
You're
as weakest link.
You're as strong as your weakest link, and so if our weakest link, black people, is stronger, the whole United States is going to be stronger. It's going, and then
I
by as a byproduct, white people are also going to be helped.
I disagree with your
better.
characteristics.
Well, let me
It's just like
just
that black
let me just
people
add-
are the weakest chain in America. It's poor people that are the weakest chain in America.
Let me
It's
just-
not
And then
just-
those
Who-
black- and those
who
poor
are the
people
poor-
happen to be
and
black.
who are the poorest? And who are the
some
poorest?
black, some white, some
No, no,
Chinese.
no, no.
So like, so
some
take so
Chinese,
take
on
your,
average.
take the
like, it's
take the
every
Kansas
race.
City take the Kansas City,
Poor has
Missouri.
no race.
Take the
Sure.
Kansas City, Missouri example, right, that you brought up. Did you
Sure.
know that? I mean, I looked it up. According to welfareinfo.org, the poverty rate
Oklahoma.
for
It
black
doesn't
people
matter.
in
Oh my
Kansas City,
God.
Missouri,
It
the
does
poverty
matter.
rate for Kansas City, Missouri is 28.4. For white
Okay.
people, it's 9.5. Strange. Like
Yeah,
it's
okay.
almost like it's
Okay.
almost like if I go to more cities and contract more data, I might find that every time we go to look at something that's predominantly black or even close to being predominantly black, I'm probably going to find the same poverty percentage. So that's a happenstance. Like, is that something that we
No.
can't just like recognize that we have to target this out, right?
I'm not arguing that you can't recognize the history as to black plight here in America. I understand that
Can
black
I
people have
ask a
a
question?
significantly less wealth than probably any other race in America. I'm not sure the exact specific statistics, but I'm sure Black people are on the lower of the totem pole. But no, I totally agree with your characterization that Black people are historically poor here in America. I'm just saying
Generational.
that
currently
Generational.
poor.
generationally, currently, sure,
No,
whatever.
no, the words matter. Words matter here. I'm saying
If you
generationally
want
poor.
to play fucking
Generational is
semantics, play
ongoing.
fucking
It doesn't
semantics.
stop.
If you want,
Go-
if you want to play semantics, play semantics. I mean, it's not. It wasn't the broad point I was making. I was just making the point that, like, I'm sorry, Prime. What?
Why?
No, no, it's fine. No, it's fine.
Prime
It's
winning?
fine. I wanted to get. Go ahead, Pyro.
Okay, yeah,
Very
sorry,
dramatic
Pyro.
stunt
Yeah,
while
sorry,
he
you
was
asked me a
just falling,
question.
almost fell asleep.
Yeah, my question is because the statement you made that is, like black people have been historically poor, you've acknowledged that. Joe Lewis is saying, generational, and I would like 100% agree with that. Like we can
Sure.
go on the statistic tour if you want to, but we got to admit that if we look at the broad statistics, when we look by race, the group that is generally more poor in this country, in the continental United States, tends to be black people in 2022. So when we say it's generational, yes, and it's because of the history. My question to you would be, because you said, like you mentioned, it's not as bad as it was in the 60s, not as bad as it was in the 30s. And like I 100% agree with you on that. Why does it have to be? Why does it have to be as bad as the times in America where, I'm going to say it, white people were at their most ratchet, and when, the KKK was marching in the fucking, Washington? Why does it have to be as bad as that? I would personally hope by 2022, we've made some fucking progress. The fact that we have to sit here and talk about historically poor communities, historically poor schooling, historically poor infrastructure, all centered around, surprisingly black communities, that's the issue we're talking about solving. And that's the racism that still lingers. Yes, because I am born black, I am statistically more likely to be born in these areas where my schooling is subpar, where infrastructure is subpar, where we're seeing a lot of policing. That is 100% directly because I'm black. 100%. So for me to sit here and listen to someone say, oh, it's just poor people, no, because in poor white neighborhoods, this doesn't happen. In poor white neighborhoods, they still have adequate enough schooling. They still don't have to worry about policing on the same level. Their infrastructure is still better. And if you don't believe me, Google Buffalo, New York, and just look at the difference between Main Street and, let's look at the sides. Go on Google Maps. It's night and day. And it's not like this. It's not this, surprising. You look at a lot of big cities. You look at a lot of cities in America, and it's night and day where the black communities are because they're severely less underdeveloped. Even that more so than the poor communities. So when we're saying like, yo, there needs to be like something to address this, there really does. Because usually what happens in America is when we write big grand bills for poor people over, statewide, yeah, they go out and they help poor people, but then we notice, more often than not, some communities get less. And which communities are those?
Well, maybe we're just not voting in the right politicians then. I
It's
mean, I
always
feel
not
like
the right politicians. That's the
I
thing,
feel
right?
like
It's always
no, I
not
agree
the
with
right
you.
politicians.
No,
I
I think
wonder why.
I think there's a policy solution to all of our problems here in the black community.
There's a policy
Obviously.
solution, but we need to recognize what the problem is.
How about a policy
yeah, you can look-
solution
you can-
that's
no,
targeted at the black
wait, wait,
community rather than
time
just
out.
class
Thank
reductionist
you,
nonsense?
Revolutionary.
Can we start
time out,
there?
and
Why does it have to be a black bill?
no, hold up. Revolutionary is
Are we gonna
100%
make a
right. Wait,
an Asian bill?
time out.
Or
You said no,
or
wait.
all the
Yeah, I'm right
Wait,
because
wait.
I actually do not have my brain addled by class reductionism,
Yeah,
and
that's
I'm
what I'm
not
trying to say.
unwilling to acknowledge. Yeah, I appreciate it. Go ahead.
No,
No,
I'm
you got this
100.
handled.
No, what I'm trying to tell Nutella is like you said it first. There's a policy prescription, and then Revolution added onto it because you went off the wrong path. There's a policy prescription that is directed towards fixing the black community and shit. And
I
this shit like that. But the problem is right now in this conversation, we're not at the policy prescription because we don't agree that there's a problem historically that is still ongoing today. Every time we elect a new politician, where the black community is left behind. And you can't sit up here and say, well, in 2022, it's not because we're black. If we're continuing the same policies that were going on in the 30s and in the 80s and shit like that.
My point is, politicians and legislation isn't discriminating you against you. because
Damn,
you're
when they
black
forget my
specifically.
communities, it almost fucking feels like it, bro.
They
Sure,
are
okay.
the reason like
It feels like
I
they're doing
ignore
it.
it.
Yeah.
It feels like
It's
but
almost
it's
like
not.
when they
it's
cordon
designed
off a
that
square
way.
of
It feels
when
like
they
it because
cordon
of
off
the
a square
historical
of when they
sense.
cordon off a square of Buffalo, and it's almost like this is the black Arab Corden, yeah, it feels like a lot of the shit that goes on when they implement new fucking tactics that conveniently leave this area behind.
Sure.
It does kind of feel like, yeah, it
Yeah.
is maybe because we're black.
Let me
Think about
Yeah.
think about
can I flesh out my point a little bit
Yeah.
more? I don't think there's no racism here in America today. Don't get me wrong. I don't think racism just doesn't exist. I obviously can understand that people are discriminated against here in America because they are black. I'm just saying the overall majority of the problems that Joe has pulled out and previously in this discussion, I think they're not exclusive to black people. That's my point.
sure, sure.
The
But-
exclusionary policies that
Sure.
existed within the New Deal affected other people. That's what you're saying, right? Like I mean I can run it down for you again. Like 75 to 80% of the individuals who could have benefited for the New Deal, whether it be Social Security, GI Bill,
Yeah.
Fair Labor Act,
Black people were discriminated
banking.
against in the past. Yes.
Right,
and
but
those were black people in the
it's- okay,
30s
yeah,
and
okay,
40s.
Yes. Okay.
50s.
It's disproportionately.
And it contributed to the general racial wealth gap now, right? I
Why?
totally agree with that.
Why did it? Why?
Yes,
did it?
because of race, obviously.
No. Why? Because that family had kids, and then they had kids.
That's generational
So
wealth.
that's
what I just said.
generational.
Yes.
It's not like, and at that point, we had to be like, hey, this is a generational problem affecting a group generationally, and the very children who, like, we're all of us. If we were born in the United States and from the South, which is an overwhelming majority of the black people, even on this panel, where
Listen,
we
I'll tell you right
were
now.
affected by the GI Bill and the New
I'm the
Deal.
only-
I'll tell you-
God's
I'll
I'm
was
pretty
in
sure I'm
New
the
I'll
only
tell you
one
right
that's
now.
excluded.
I'm not saying you guys weren't affected. I'm just
Deal.
saying
But
you guys
right, I
aren't
understand that.
specifically discriminated against.
You're just
No,
saying
but
fuck
the
of the
problem
color,
is these
because
things
of the color
compound.
of your skin.
No,
I'm not
Right,
saying-
but these
But we're
things
saying that
compound.
you are, for example, right? Like
I don't think-
there's
I don't
there's
think you
black
guys are
neighbor.
saying that you are nowadays.
No,
I think
no.
you're saying that there's a historical
Do you-
standpoint. There's a historical.
Not even that. Not even that, right? Like think about where do cities place their landfills? It's
in the poorer parts.
typically in the black neighborhood.
In the poorer parts that sometimes
Right.
happen to be black neighborhoods.
And so just like
Sometimes,
just like
statistically, it's
but
very
there's
okay.
multiple
Very
but there's
often.
multiple
Sometimes.
well, very
there's-
very often, probably in inner
there's-
cities. Sure.
there's multiple poor neighborhoods in a city. And it could be a mixed demographic, Asian demographic, Filipino, whatever, and then black demographic. You're gonna find that landfill closest to the black demographic more times often than not. Like for example,
where's your proof for that?
I mean, San Francisco is an example,
Okay.
where I can give you the article where
Sure.
because of the landfill and factory plants and the smoke and the smog, black people in San Francisco have like I believe like 20 times more likelihood to develop asthma and lung cancer because they're in the neighborhood where politicians allow for this like you heard of environmental racism before, right?
Heard about that? Yeah, sure.
What
like
do you
Flint.
just not believe environmental racism? You just
No.
it's just
No, I said
like,
before. I
the
believe.
whole- right, but
I-
that's an active thing. You're talking about historical. You say, oh, today we don't have these racist problems that affect black people. That's a current environmental racism is a current thing that affects black people today,
Sure.
where they're in these neighborhoods, and because politicians don't really have to appease on a local level to black people because typically they're not like a significant amount for them to care about electorally unless you're like in a 98% like black city.
Sure.
Like typically in these cities, we can just ignore black people and we don't give a fuck. Like that's literally what goes on because these black neighborhoods are not this like enough of a majority to affect the electorate. They're not gonna give a fuck about them, and they're just gonna like literally kill them, like with Flint and stuff like that.
And
What happened?
these things
Sure.
compound, right? Like, do
Yeah,
you
no.
know that there's only 3 states that have over a 50% or greater black home ownership? Do you want to know what those states are? Like, do we know what those states are? I'm saying greater than 50%. There's only 2
I'm not looking up
states.
statistics right now. Sorry.
I mean,
You
we
tell
I mean,
me.
like, it's a
Since
pretty
you looked
easy
up.
like Mississippi, South Carolina. It's been that way for years. An overwhelming majority of the states that have higher than 50% or higher home ownership, save Michigan, I think it is at 50% or greater. Everything else is in the 40s, 30s. Hawaii, I think it's at like 10% home ownership for
Is that a
black people.
racism problem that black people can't own homes? Is that
It
because
is a problem.
is that because they're black?
It is a problem that's going to require some type of racialized solution because you
Absolutely.
Do we
can't.
just not know like the laws and legislation that were in this country?
Yes.
Like,
I please inform me about the laws and legislations in this country.
yeah,
No,
there
no,
were
brother. I understand you. You think poverty hits everybody, which is true. But
Yeah.
the reasons for the poverty matters because different reasons for like we have to acknowledge these reasons. Or the reason that you like our generation, the reason we don't own homes or a lot of us don't is because we didn't come from a rich a background, and because they didn't, the reason they didn't come from a rich background because their parents didn't come from a rich background. The reason that didn't happen because and so on is because their shit got stolen from them. That's why.
And then the thing from a
You
policy
can't just ignore
perspective,
that.
when we're
I
talking
think we
about
just don't own
solutions,
homes because the homes are expensive.
but then why apparently white people haven't heard that memo because they're in the 60 to 70% of home ownership.
Because
in
white
all
people have
states.
generational wealth. Yeah, they have a
Oh my
majority of
God.
generational wealth. I agree with you.
We're
I
not
agree with you,
talking-
18. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're
The thing
saying
is, we're
and-
not
and
talking.
the-
You
I-
go ahead, Prime.
I don't know if we'll be able to solve this here
I'll
with
try one more thing.
Josh.
Well,
okay.
I have a point too.
Okay. All right. Pyro and then Joe. And then maybe we'll try to wrap up with the actual topic at hand. But okay, go
Right.
ahead.
So far.
Pyro, go ahead.
I think the problem is we keep using examples that are a little bit like past that range where people care about. People don't give a fuck about the World War II. But like we got to remember, like it wasn't just like the Civil Rights Acts, yay, everything's passed. No, there had to be more legislation enacted.
agree with
The
you. There's a
federal,
policy
the
solution to
Equal
all the
Credit
fights black
Opportunity Act of 1974 and the Fair Housing Act of 1968 tried to amend these things, tried
Right.
barely, and they didn't. And one of the things that you have to remember is that I'm not talking about like 1974. Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974. So your parents are probably alive during this. Your grandparents. Think about how that would have affected them had they gone to try and get a credit opportunity score, right? You know, trying to get their credit score checking. And oops, their bank is racist.
Yeah.
Trying to get that house because, you know, the equal rights, you know, thing of 68, the equal rights housing of 68 said, yo, you could get a house now. But when you go to get your credit score checked, oh no, the bank say, sorry, you're a Negro. We don't like your credit score. And that's something that happened. There's a lot of legislation that had to be passed well into your parents' lifetimes that, like, yeah, we
Let me-
we,
can I ask
we
you a
haven't
question?
dealt with.
If you go online and check your credit score right now, will it tell you you can't get your credit score because you're black?
Oh no, it didn't happen to me, but it damn well happened to my parents.
Yeah,
It prevented
because
them from it
no,
prevent
I'm
it
talking
prevented
about
them.
today. I'm talking about in the year 2022.
Right, but that matters because it's still
Yes.
it's still the
I'm
family.
telling you, but that's my point. You're not discriminated
You
against because
realize
you're black.
you
You're
no,
discriminated
time
against
out.
because you're poor.
Wait, Josh. You realize my parents are still fucking alive, right? In
My parents are
2022?
alive too. My parents are
Okay,
black too.
so why do you keep focusing on me when I'm telling you there are fucking people alive who
Yes.
still have to get the effects? Because yo, we were in the past that discriminated against us. Yo, we were in the past not even that fucking long ago that discriminated against us. Parents, grandparents are still alive. My grandmother was a sharecropper. You know what? She wasn't able to go to fucking high school. She had to pick cotton. Do you know what that does to your kind of work and education when you
Probably
can't do
awful.
that shit? And then you have to like try and apply for jobs and shit as things. It kind of fucks you up.
You gotta
Definitely.
pass it down to your
Yeah,
children.
I
and your
understand.
children.
Exactly.
You guys keep giving me the same kind of
It's not
rundown
the
about
same.
generational wealth. I understand there's a huge
Mhm.
generational wealth gap between white people and black people or any other race in America. I understand there's a historical significance as to why black people in America don't have the same wealth. I understand that. I'm just saying today in 2022, you're not being discriminated against legally because you are black. You're being discriminated against because
Yes.
you can't afford.
That's
Hold on,
politician.
Hold on,
politicians
he said the word legally.
But yeah, that's what I'm
you-
saying. They're
I-
being discriminated against in other ways. Like there's de jure, which is
No,
legal,
I
and then there's de
think Prime
facto.
wants to say something.
Yeah. Jim was heading in that direction too, right? So if
Yes.
look, if you're saying that yes, like if there is a law that specifically targets black people, no. There that by putting the word black in there, no. But there are laws that do everything up to that, right? That effectively only target black people. There was ways to stop African Americans from voting, right? There was that case, what was it, in North Carolina? I forget, where that judge said a map, a gerrymandered map, was surgically targeted to keep black people from voting. Like, these things happen. They don't have to say the word black. They're smarter than that, right? But they can do the exact same thing. That's like,
Where was that legislation?
it was
Southern strategy.
it was no. It was gerrymandering. That happened a little while ago. I'd have to find that. It was a state.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah.
gerrymandering in itself can be racist, but most legislation on the book that's keeping black people from getting generational wealth, or if there's legislation on the book keeping from black people from getting generational wealth in certain areas, I just don't think that they exist specifically towards black people.
It was
You
in North
can't
Carolina.
develop generational wealth if the starting point is in poverty. Like, that's
If
the
your
whole
generations weren't
rub.
allowed to have no wealth.
Yeah. So like, and the
reason
thing,
I'm not going to be able to buy a house is because like my parents, again, who were given racist treatment, so like their credit's fucked up now, and then my grandparents who weren't able to get fucking credit in the first place, they don't have any credit whatsoever to
You
pass
get credit?
out to me.
Can you
My
get credit?
credit right now, I'm currently building my credit. I have a college
Me
debt to
too.
pay off that
Me too.
hopefully I'm hoping Biden, will fix. But the problem is
too.
I'm still starting in the dumpster. When my
Yeah.
parents die, they're going to give me their bad credit. So my credit is going to take a massive fucking hit. And
Yeah.
that's something that is left over from their racist bullshit. And that's
Yeah.
gonna happen to me. And then when
and
I'm going to get that, the only thing I'm gonna be able to say is like, yo, I'm fucking black in this country. The fuck do you want?
And then
You might
and
be able
then
to
you
make it a
gotta
little bit better in
gotta
passing
look
on to
at
your
it.
kid.
I think
You
building
gotta
good credit doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you're black. I think you can build
Sure.
good credit and
Did
be
you miss
black.
the part where I told you like my parents' bad credit will eventually hit me? So even
My
if I do
my
build
mom
good
has bad
credit,
credit.
Yes, but think about it like this, Nutella.
But
Think about it like
why?
this.
that affects your credit.
Think about it like this, Nutella. The reason that some of us may have bad credit today is because we weren't taught good credit before, and because our parents had bad credit and their parents had bad credit and so
That's
forth.
an educational problem, right?
Right.
it's not
That's
an
an
education.
education.
No,
It's
not
No.
part
education.
educational. It's one part generational.
How is that
Like,
not an educational problem?
it's
How is
that.
learning how the
But
fucking finances work in America
what is the
not?
no, but that's
education?
poverty, bro. Like,
Yeah. The
when
reason
you're
you're
poor,
not,
when you're
you don't
poor
have
in
time for
one
education.
yeah,
No,
okay,
Go
sorry.
ahead. Yeah.
Continue,
So
buddy.
like the reason you don't have education is because you can't afford education. The reason you can't afford education because you got your motherfucking wealth stolen from you, and the reason for that is because of slavery, Jim Crow, and niggas literally stealing your money from the bank that you put in, and it's stealing 80% of the black income. Do you understand how significant that is? All of black people all of black people, or 80% of the black person's wealth was stored in a black bank that was after emancipation. And they literally destroyed that
he's
bank.
just gonna apply it's not happening
And so-
today. So
Because
like,
that's not
It doesn't
today.
happen today.
So,
I
like,
understand it doesn't happen today, but the reason we're still poor
of
today.
course it happens. No, of course it happens today. Don't say that it doesn't happen today.
Hold on,
Because
I'm
we just went through a financial crash, right? The 2008 housing market crash, which destroyed a generation of black wealth. That happened, right? Because those people, people handing out those subprime mortgage loans, specifically targeted black people. They went to black
didn't give a
churches, right?
shit.
They went to those areas and said, "Oh, like I know all of you are looking to make the American dream happen. We can make that happen. Like, come to our a bank and we will get you those loans," right? They targeted African Americans, and African Americans bore the brunt of that crisis. And so yes, a generation of black wealth is gone. That happens today.
Yeah. And I want to
Bank of
add.
America's doing it again right now,
And
giving
I wanna-
zero down
the
loans.
point that I was trying to make, like, the reason why, like, I even like, because this is actually really good. Like, the reason why these things are brought up is because when it finally comes to politicians talking about black people, these are the things that they need to be talking about honestly. They have to like be honest about it.
I agree with you.
Like, yes, there are black immigrants. We know this. There are people who came to this country by boat, and there's people who came to this country by plane. And the black people who came by plane are doing significantly better than the black people who came here by boat. So when we're talking about black people, yes, we're going to see the intersections of all that what we identify as black people. We're gonna see all those black immigrants who came by plane, and they're gonna pump up all of our economic stats, and we're gonna have, oh, there's the black middle class in this sea of bullshit. But then when we put the lens a little bit better and look at all the black people that came to this country by boat, we see, oh, they're experiencing kind of the exact same things. And when you have a group of people who are in poverty in one area of activity, in this case, economics is going to be in all the other areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, healthcare. Like all
Right.
those areas of activity are going to, if one's in poverty, they're all going to be in poverty because
I
all those areas of activity intersect each other. And all I'm asking for in our political advertisements and our politicians is to be honest about our poverty.
Sure.
Be honest about the situation in front of black people. Don't lie to black people saying the pandemic is over. It's not over for black people. And it's probably not going to be over for black people for another 8 years. And at least 8 years. And that's a reality because again, politicians, when it finally comes to talking about the issues that affect black people and being transparent and honest about these things, it just becomes another conversation about how we're not voting Democrat enough. It comes about another conversation about making sure we're getting our voter registration up because voter disenfranchisement is real. That's a real thing. And it's a real thing that we need to like come forward and talk about, but it can't be the exact same message
Yeah.
every election cycle.
I think I definitely agree with that sentiment. I think we need better politicians that represent black issues in America. I totally understand that from
And
that perspective.
and honestly,
But
it's more of a matter of like actually monopolizing the vote and being honest about monopolizing the vote.
Sure.
Where it's like, hey, I'm putting you into office to hold you to account. You said these things. Joe Biden, you promised us a certain level of stimulus, and then you lied to us. You promised a certain level of student loan forgiveness. You lied to us. And we have to be honest at the fact when our politicians and those that we vote lie. And so often, especially in the Biden administration, especially between like the liberals and the Democrats and the Twitch tubians who want to talk about politics online, is that they're always hiding from the truth that politicians, including Democrats, lie all the time to black people. And
Sure.
it hits a point where why do we even like waste our time with the people that bring up in front of us? Because at the end of the day, like we're going to need white people to solve these problems with us, but we can't have a coalition of white progressives, white sock dems, white leftists who don't want to talk about race and want to prioritize class, because those people are going to get blasted by the black women wearing a nice plaid suit and a plaid hat, the uppity reverend who speaks very like eloquently about the strife of black people. They're just going to get blasted by black people with shitty politics. And we've seen this happen over and over and over. And even in the face of Herschel Walker in Georgia, that should be the easiest thing. Just have a conversation, and an honest conversation about the things that are affecting Georgians and push that as your platform for
Sure.
this individual. And they can't even do that. Like it's
Sure.
just
We definitely
these
we
are
definitely
these
need. And
Might I-
I'm willing
wanna-
to say, I agree with most of the problems we have in the black community. I agree with you on. But I think we should move this discussion on solutions rather than just focusing on the issues.
Right, and
Nobody here is anti-solution. I don't think.
Yeah.
We talk about.
No.
I feel like Joe just named like 17 significant like things he wanted to see. He didn't just say like, "Oh,
Yes.
this took somebody to fix it." He also said like, "Oh, they need to like platform specific
like-
things."
I mean, that's
Yeah.
a little big.
Might
And
I
not for
add?
nothing,
They need a
like-
platform. Black.
Might
that's-
I
that's a
add
big
that
solution. That's not going to help black people.
literally the association, I mean the
Wait, what was
American.
that? Wait, what did you say, Nicole? I'm sorry.
Oh, Bam said you had specific solutions, and your solutions were we need better black representation.
No, fuck no. We don't need better black representation.
Sure.
We need
Flesh
better
out.
representation of what affects black
Black
people.
issues.
Period.
Okay.
Like, what? It doesn't matter what color skin that individual was. This is why. Listen, this is why I hate Twitch tubians. I'm not yelling at Unitel. I'm speaking generally because you get these fucking racists who think that I'm racist towards white people. When I explicitly say time and time again, we can't do this without white people. We can't do this without other racialized individuals, and we have to come together and actually help black people. It always seems like people think I'm talking in an exclusatory manner because it's like my politics are kind of black centered, and that to me is racist at this point. Where it's
How
like
would
we
you?
understand that there's people who are in positions of privilege who can fight these fights for us and can get into rooms that we will never exist in. And when they are in these rooms that we can never exist in, they have to have our minds at play. And they can't be catering to the white tears of all the liberals that are like, oh, why aren't you talking about the white people in poverty? And it's like,
Sure.
my dude, we can deal with that. But we also have we can deal with one problem here, one problem there, and one problem there. We don't hear about men when we're talking about abortion. Like there's a reason for that because
Sure.
that would be fucked, and we recognize why it would be fucked. Because in the conversation about abortion, and then you had people saying, "Well, what about the men? What about the men who are affected by abortion?" That would be sexist, and you would get dragged. So, like, and that's the problem when it comes to black politics. Because if we did it analogously, if you had a man who was like talking about women but never really like recognized like the strife of women, they would get blasted by the first woman candidate that comes up there and just says, "Hi females, hi women." It's like, yeah, she sees us. And it doesn't matter if her politics or shit. It doesn't matter that she's pro-choice, like anti-choice. Like she will get the eyeballs because people within these institutions want to feel like they're seen. And for black people, we're just not seen.
I agree.
Our votes just used as this tool to keep Democrats in power. and then like you get people who say like, oh, but you guys have 80% of the vote. There's no like we are in a unique position where a party could literally they need us. They need black people.
Sure.
But they need black people to the point that they can lie to us. And they lie to us all the time. And I'm just saying that like, we can use our advertisements and use our energy to center our politics, to center the fight and center what black people care about. I'm like,
Because half
if
of
you
black
have
people
to,
who do
if
vote, go to the polls
I agree
don't
with that.
necessarily know don't necessarily know the policy position they're voting for. Like, like this is where I kind of agreed with Revolutionary earlier. We're like, I said you was one of these niggas because I don't like the idea of like, oh, we don't the black people, we are politically. I don't like the politically homeless thing. Like that I feel like not because that statement alone is bad, but for what usually comes with it. But I do think that there is a reality to like my grandmother hasn't missed an election in 50 years, I'm sure.
Bless her heart.
And but I don't think she ever knows anything specifically, and she ever has any expectations of what she's voting for. She just knows that her life gets worse if, if she doesn't go vote for the Democrats. And I think that like whenever I think that it can be important, especially dealing with young people and just black people in general, to like be more specifically targeted with the policies that we want to see done. Because even black people, even like half the black people that I would consider politically engaged, their politics start and end with like reparations. It's like reparations to bust, and like it's just not feasible in our current climate, and it won't be until we can do until we make those other strides, and that's the uncomfortable part of it. Like we have to do other things now. There's people who need things now, and they don't know what else to ask for. So like that's
It's
what
actually
our political ads need to be.
we've made huge
targeting.
I know,
um,
advancements with reparations actually currently right
Yeah,
now.
but and not too much on my other boy Joe. I'm sorry. Biden been riding. I give him that.
he gets a W for today. We'll drive.
Yeah, I
him
was gonna
tomorrow.
say today he did a great job.
He
Yeah,
gets
you can drag him
he gets a
tomorrow.
W. He gets to put on the gold chain. He gets to hang out with all the felons. He get released on his pardons, and then we'll go back to dragging him tomorrow.
He gets
There
to
you go.
take one lap in that fancy ass.
So, Josh, you want to say something to me?
I totally just forgot. Sorry, I was
Okay.
listening to the conversation.
Well, it's
Until I
fine.
wanna
Well,
point out-
look, we ran out of time. We ran out of time for this conversation. So we'll continue on. I want to respect everyone's time. Some people are different time zones and all that good stuff, right? So we'll continue on for the open walk on panel. So if you want to join, we'd love to have you. But stick around, everyone. We still have more content for you. We're just giving outro to all these individuals. We'll have another panel coming up, an open walk-on panel where you see. Okay, stick around for that. If you've been enjoying the content, hit that follow button. Hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on, so you know I'm going live. I do it all the time. Exclamation social and chat for social media. We got Twitter where we tweet, Discord where we do everything, including the walk-up panel, which you'll have in a second. So be a part of our Discord, TikTok, and then YouTube, where you find the VOD. Like, comment, and subscribe. Okay. All right. Great. So we are going to again give an outro to all these great individuals around. We do have more content. Sorry, with my man Bam, who came up with a great topic, which we promptly ignored, which is unfortunate because I thought it was a good one.
I think it was a good conversation, regardless. I'm gonna use the first part of my my outro to ask Pyro, are those cornrows or finger waves?
Cornrows.
Okay. Good luck. I like it. So using the second part of my outro to say who do I wanna shout out? Is there any member of Black History I want to shout out? Booker
My
T.
brother.
Washington. Shout out to Booker T. Washington. Yeah.
Shout out.
Not the wrestler. The
Yeah.
T.
He is an important part.
yeah, Booker T. Washington
Around.
was understood the black plight of the freed slaves in a way that I believe Du Bois didn't really, and yet like we've gone through history and Du Bois gets all the credit, but I think the Booker T. Washington did a good job speaking to the people, like meeting them where they're at. Like he was saying, like when niggas couldn't read and Du Bois was talking about they need to be going to Harvard to college. And he like, bro, we were slaves last week. I don't know. This is his own thing. Shout out to Booker T.
All right.
I went to the W.E. Du Bois Museum in Ghana. It was really cool.
But yeah, thanks for that reminder. It was actually pretty cool. And I do appreciate you, Bam. Again, thank you for the help. Some of that great topic. It was actually really appreciative. If anyone else has, we got good topics for Abe, let me know. Because it's a pain coming up with these things. So, Revolutionary Underground, thanks for stopping by. It was great having you here. Yeah, I hope you'll come back.
Hey, I appreciate the invite. It was both interesting and enlightening and infuriating, the entire full range.
Okay, then it was
of
successful.
the
It was
human
a successful
emotional
day.
spectrum.
Uh,
It was good to meet a lot of y'all. We got to make sure we link up and do some networking, because community unity, even if it comes online, is incredibly important. And I know Dream knows this, but one of the most important things they do teach you at some of those black educational institutions like Morehouse is to remember how important the network and the community actually is.
You went to HBCU too?
Yeah, I went to Morehouse.
I also
That
went to
Morehouse,
HBCU.
brother, let's go! What? I did not know.
Okay, we're being
went-
overrun. We need to fumigate. We need to fix
Crazy.
this.
I went to
What
FAMU.
year?
Shout out to my public state
2008.
universities, okay?
Oh,
Your
cool.
steam. State
That's
universities, you're
Just a little bit
esteemed,
old, that's
esteemed.
all.
Go Rattlers.
Please go to state schools, okay?
Oh
see.
boy. Oh man. Joe's trying to throw bombs in the last second here. Let's go to Josh / Nutella.
Wait,
who
you said you went to FAMU? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I went to FAMU. Yep, Tallahassee.
Surprise.
Roll
who
Tide.
is another brand new individual who got the classic PrimeCayes treatment, the baptism by fire, where the entire panel is against you, right? That happens. And you got to fight your way out of it. So I appreciate you doing that, and doing it with the good attitude. I've seen a lot of people who can't handle this much, who like really fall apart, but you did a great job. And we do appreciate you, and we hope to have you back in the future.
Thank you.
blood
Yeah, I'd love to be back in the future, but honestly, it was a fun time agreeing or disagreeing with all of you guys. I had a great time tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Shout out to you then. We have our friend Water Kai, who that was a good time. Thank you for also stopping by.
This one was great. This one was great all the way around. I appreciate it, especially when Joe showed up. It got lit.
He does that. He has a habit of that. We also have our friend Dream, right? Yeah, when too much of these Morehouse motherfuckers out here, right? I clean house.
You wish you went to Morehouse.
It's okay, we're awesome.
But yeah, thanks, buddy, for being here.
No, thank you for having me. Yeah, man, I'm excited to be back on in the future, man. Last week I was in DC for the Congressional Black Caucus conference, and I saw some of the same thing that Joe was talking about. You know, our messaging does need to be better. I learned a lot of stuff at CBC, and I feel like that information and messaging should be way more mainstream than just have it be at the CBC. Because niggas at the CBC, they really get it, and they're like doctors and professors and all that stuff, bro. They're really cool and shouldn't be behind a paywall, in my opinion. Luckily for me, my job paid for me to go, but that wealth of knowledge should be really widespread.
Much. We'll go to our friend Isle. Isle, thanks for stopping by as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I didn't go to Morehouse, but I went to BC and for my undergrad, Boston College, and then for my grad school, I went to BC, Brooklyn College at CUNY. So,
Oh, I thought
really,
you
I
was talking
think
about Bethune. My bad.
Yeah, I was talking about Bethune too. I was about to go crazy.
no, but I went to the real BC. I don't know what your bootleg college is. That's your BC bootleg college. But I went to the real deal, and I'm representing right now, and that's probably why I have all the best takes. Really, Prime. Um, and listen, it's Christopher Columbus weekend, really. On Monday, and so I'm getting ready for that. I might actually start putting down some new videos. I'm gonna start some YouTube, I guess. I don't know, maybe. I'm thinking about doing that, so I might as well discover that. So I mean, look out for that in the upcoming days. And it was really good to be here because it's always a great time to be here with the PC and F community. Um, and listen, about my thoughts, I think that we shouldn't have nudity be normalized, and I think that AB was wrong for exposing himself at the pool. And I think that if any charges come his way, I think he has to be prepared to deal with that because what he did was not acceptable. And I think that with the second topic, I think that whatever works to get the vote out, man, because everybody needs to have their voice heard in the country. And listen, I don't vote for Biden because I didn't like him. I thought he was a bad candidate. But I think that anybody, even people who wanted to vote for Democrats, even though I think that their policies are bad,
Sure.
I think they should be able to
Okay.
go out and get the vote out for them too.
Sure.
So I think that's something good.
Great. Yeah. Shout out to you for your Columbus Day content. Gonna go out, practice mutilating his local Native Americans. All right. Let's go to Joe. Joe Lewis, thank you for being here. Much appreciated, right? Like you said, Joe Lewis brings the hotness, right? This is what you get when you come out of a state school, right? A properly educated young black man. So thank you, Joe, for stopping by.
Yeah, this was fun. Look, I don't know if you guys were talked about it in the first half. I don't think that's Antonio Brown. Okay, I'd need to see the unpixelation. I just don't think that's him. We got to unpixelate that. We got to see the evidence. You can't just pixelate the evidence and
Antonio Brown
Dick match
truther.
him? You gotta identify.
Bro.
You gotta match dicks.
Oh wait,
we gotta see if it's real. We gotta see if it's actually Antonio Brown.
CSI
And we
style.
gotta talk about the fact that
it could have been a deep fake. That is true. I didn't
yeah,
even think about
it could be a deep fake.
fake.
Could be a deep fake dick. Deep fake dick.
Same rule for
Deep
my
fake
nipples as Antonio Brown's penis.
Someone
Listen,
just
and, like,
said
we gotta
deep
talk.
dick.
So we
I
gotta talk
quit.
to the Cincinnati
Nobody
Bengals
wanna
because
see
they
all
have
that.
this. The Bengals have this reputation of like changing the lives of players. Like Tua's probably like I don't want to see Tua taking his slong out like a couple
I'm a
years from
Dolphins
now
fan.
because like it seems to be a trend of the Bengals knocking people in the head really hard, and then their whole lives are changing. I wish I was there for that first topic, but yeah, like when it comes to the second, like I'm very like sensitive about these things now, where it's like we gotta like if the way that you're reaching a people through a political message is just because of sex. I'm not exactly sure if we need those type of politics at the voting ballot. We got to interrogate those people, all those black men. Again, like it's gonna be black men who are targeted by this advertisement. Like we got to interrogate their politics. as they're going to the polls, getting all excited. But yeah, it was a fun thing, man. Reparations is base. Don't let anybody else fool you. It's a lot of other steps to it, but yeah, it's fun.
Thanks so much. And last but not least, well, last but fucking random, we have our friend Pyro Tyrant. Who's here? Pyro, glad to have you. We've missed you a lot, actually. You know, I think you're a really cool dude. So it was nice to like a nice surprise to have you around.
Thank you, Prime. It's nice to be here. I came on because, you know, I heard some dumb shit that was just wrong, and I had to correct that.
Sure.
No offense to anyone here. Y'all
No
actually
offense
turned out to
taken.
be a good vibe. You know,
No
did
offense
end to
taken.
a good night. But like, I think when we go forward in our politics, we need to remember one thing about this country. We always have this festering, open cut of a wound of racism. And frankly, I'm tired of dabbing everything that's a cause of this infection and not dealing with the fucking infection. We need to, whatever our politics may be vocal about what's going on here. Yeah, there is certain things affecting the black community uniquely that don't happen to other people in this country. Yeah, there are other disenfranchised people in this country as well. We need to fix that shit because like this country's been going on too long to be
True.
preaching some good ass message about peace, unity, shining city on a hill when we got motherfuckers like dying in the streets. We got motherfuckers being killed by the police. We got motherfuckers wishing they lived in a different country. Like, I think we should go forward with that. Just be honest about this fucking country.
Okay. And quickly, I forgot to say this to you on Monday, Joe. Joe, did you know that you
Go
got
Eagles? Oh, not that.
did you know that you got a shout out on Sam Sea's Majority Report? Did
Yeah, I
he tell you
heard that.
Yeah.
I found it because I'm
Ooh.
obsessed and my ego is really big, so I needed some back scratchies.
Yeah.
That was a nice back.
Oh, good
That was
job.
a nice back scratchy.
Yeah. Oh, someone like IM'd into the show and like because they were talking about like black creators online who don't get enough attention, right? And they're like, yeah,
Don't
Joe
bring me
Lewis
on.
is fucking fantastic.
I think we need to bring on Andrew Tate. Okay, he's the true black man that they need.
He's just trying to flex. He's trying to flex.
what?
Y'all look at Joe.
G.
Joe.
PUBG, mate.
We need people who say "wash" like wash and women
PUBG.
in modern world. We need people who talk like that. We need more people who talk like that.
We
Well,
have
We're
our
not going to take into
friend
account his CTE.
Joe
Does
Lewis.
Andrew Tate have CTE? That's a
I'm
good
going to say
question.
for sure, homie has CTE.
Joe
Hey,
Lewis, you
got a lot
are
of other things.
If he
fantastic.
doesn't
He
have
gets it from all that
CTE, how
ass
can
he
we
eats.
Oh my
explain
God.
half
He
of
gets
his
from-
positions?
He
He's
gets
a
it from
water
that
guy.
ass, not that martial arts.
Joe
if-
Lewis, I don't know yet. Joe Lewis, you are fantastic, and I love and appreciate you. And I'm always happy when you're around, and you should get more attention. And I think a lot of black creators should. So shout out to my man Joe Lewis, and I hope you get more attention. Right?
It'll work out.
Okay. All right. Any which way.
I appreciate
So we are going to continue to our open walk-on panel right after this, where you at home, may join us. So, anyone here? Anyone also join in, but if not, that's okay. Thanks for spending your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your passion in my community. I know they appreciate as much as I do. Have a good one. Bye. What?
What y'all gonna be talking about on that open
Joe,
panel?
you got
Oh, I was going to talk about the Joe Biden.